Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, As-salatu was-salamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. In our last few classes, we discussed what is Rawm and Ishmaam and how to apply them. And today we will learn when Rawm and Ishmaam are not allowed. There are 5 different cases in which we can only stop with a pure sukoon and no other way of stopping is allowed. And the first one is when the last letter of the word where we are choosing to stop has an original sukoon, which means the last letter is sakin, whether we continue our recitation or stop our recitation on that word, such as in these examples, u'iddat and mathaluhum. You can see in these examples, the last letter in these words is sakin. They have original sukoon. When the last letter is sakin, the only option to stop on that word is with a pure sukoon. And we cannot recite the word with ishmam or rawm because ishmam occurs when the letter has a dhamma and rawm is allowed when the letter has a kasra or dhamma. The second case where ishmam and rawm are not allowed, that happens when the last letter of the word carries a fatha, just as in these examples, you can see in the word yu'minuna and al-arda, the last letter in both of these examples has a fatha. So the only option to recite these words upon stopping is with a pure sukoon. So Rawm and Ishmam are not allowed here. The third case is when the last letter of the word has a temporary vowel due to meeting of two sakin letters or ittaqa'is sakinain. In that case, Ishmam and Rawm are not allowed because Rawm and Ishmam are not allowed on a conditional vowel, such as here in this example. The first word is antum and the second word is al-a'laun. Originally, letter meme is sakin, but here you can see the word is written like antumu. The vowel of letter meme is not a part of the original makeup of the word, and letter meme is followed by letter lam, and letter lam is also sakin. So in order to avoid the meeting of two sakin letters between two words, the meme of antum acquires a dhamma, but this dhamma is not original, it is temporary. Therefore, it is not allowed to stop on this word with Rawm or Ishmam. The only allowed way to stop on this word antum is reciting letter meme with a pure sukoon. And the next case where Rawm and Ishmam are not allowed is when the last letter of the word is ta marbuta, which is a round ta like this. The vowel of ta marbuta does not matter whether it has a fatha, fathatain, dhamma, dhammatain, kasra, kasratain. Upon stopping on a word that ends with ta marbuta, we change ta marbuta into letter ha, and letter ha is recited with a pure sukoon. So upon stopping on these words, this is how we will recite. Bi surah, al-hijarah, al-dalalah. But let's suppose if the word ends with ta mabsuta, which is this kind of ta, then depending on the vowel, we can stop with Rawm or Ishmam. For example, here in the word Jannatu, the last letter is ta mabsuta and letter ta has a dhamma. Here we have an option to stop with Ishmam or we can stop with Rawm and we can also stop with pure sukoon. And here in the next example, as-samawati, where the last letter ta mabsuta has a kasra, so we have an option to stop either with Rawm or with pure sukoon. Ishmam is not allowed here because Ishmam is only allowed when the letter has a dhamma. And the next case is when the last letter of the word is ha al-dhamir and we choose to stop on that word. But before we go into the details of this case, let me tell you ha al-dhamir is a pronoun ha which is not part of the original word. Rather, this ha represents a singular masculine pronoun, for example, he, his, him, depending on the context. But also remember, not every ha at the end of a word is ha al-dhamir. For example, in the glorious name of Allah, the ha is the part of the original word, or in the word wajh, which means face. The ha is part of the original word and it is not a pronoun. So the fifth case, when the last letter of the word is ha al-dhamir, just like in these examples, حوله, ميثاقه, إنه. There are different opinions of the scholars whether we can stop here with Rawm and Ishmaam, that inshallah we will discuss now in detail. There are three different schools of thought when it comes to stopping on a word where the last letter is ha al-dhamir, such as in these examples. حوله ميثاقه إنه, where all the words are ending with ha al-dhamir. The first school of thought completely forbids Rawm and Ishmaam when we choose to stop on a word that ends with ha al-dhamir. So according to the first school of thought, if we choose to stop on these words, the only option is reciting ha al-dhamir with a pure sukoon like this. حوله ميثاقه إنه, where we recite ha al-dhamir upon stopping with a pure sukoon. The second school of thought allows to stop with Rawm and Ishmaam on a word that ends with ha al-dhamir, depending on the vowel of ha al-dhamir. For example, in this word, حوله, since ha al-dhamir carries a dhamma, so according to the second school of thought, Ishmaam and Rawm both are allowed when choosing to stop on this word, in addition to pure sukoon on ha al-dhamir. In the next example, ميثاقه, because ha al-dhamir carries a kasra, so according to the second school of thought, the option to stop on this word is either with Rawm or with sukoon. Ishmaam is not allowed upon stopping because the last letter carries a kasra. In the next example, إنه, since the last letter ha al-dhamir carries a dhamma, so according to the second school of thought, Rawm, Ishmaam, and pure sukoon are the allowed options to stop on this word. And the third school of thought allows stopping at ha al-dhamir with Rawm or Ishmaam in certain conditions and forbids in other conditions. And according to Imam al-Jazari, this school of thought is the most correct one, and we will inshallah now see this one in detail. As per the scholars of the third school of thought, stopping with Rawm and Ishmaam is not allowed when a sakin ya appears before ha al-dhamir, whether it is a ya mad or ya leen. In this case, the only option to stop is with a pure sukoon according to the third school of thought. Such as in these examples, وَلِأَبَوَيْهِ and فِيهِ, letter ha al-dhamir is the last letter, and before ha al-dhamir we can see letter ya, which is sakin in both these examples. In this example, وَلِأَبَوَيْهِ, letter ya is in a leen condition, and in the second example, fihi, letter ya is in a mad condition. So according to the third school of thought, the only option to recite ha al-dhamir in this case is with pure sukoon upon stopping. So this is how we will recite it upon stopping. وَلِأَبَوَيْهِ and فِيهِ. And the second place where stopping with Rawm and Ishmaam is not allowed according to these scholars is when Ha al-Dhamir is preceded by a kasra, such as in this example, kutubihi, where letter Ha al-Dhamir is the last letter and before Ha al-Dhamir, the letter carries a kasra. So according to these scholars, when kasra comes before ha al-dhamir, in that case, the only option to stop on ha al-dhamir is with pure sukoon. And according to them, this is how we will recite kutubi. And the third place where stopping with Rawm and Ishmaam is not allowed according to these scholars is when a sakin waw comes before ha al-dhamir. This waw could be in a mad condition or in a lean condition. In both conditions, the only option to recite ha al-dhamir upon stopping is with a pure sukoon, such as in these examples. حَذِّقُوهُ and رَأَوْهُ. Upon stopping, this is how we will recite. حَرِّقُوهُ رَأَوْهُ. And the fourth condition is when ha al-dhamir is preceded by a dhamma, such as in this example, يُخْلِفُهُ. You can see before letter ha there is a dhamma. So upon stopping on this word, the only option according to the third school of thought is with a sukoon on ha al-dhamir. And this is how we will recite. يُخْلِفُهُ. So in these four conditions, stopping with Rawm and Ishmaam is not allowed in the third school of thought, and the only option to recite ha al-dhamir upon stopping is with a pure sukoon. According to the third school of thought, stopping with Rawm and Ishmaam is allowed in addition to a complete sukoon when an alif mad comes before ha al-dhamir, such as in these examples. بشرناه اجتباه. Letter ha al-dhamir carries a dhamma, and before letter ha al-dhamir there is alif mad. So now we have an option to stop on these words with all three options, which are complete sukoon, Rawm, and Ishmaam. And according to these scholars, the second place where stopping with Rawm and Ishmaam is allowed, in addition to a complete sukoon, is when the letter before ha al-dhamir carries a fatha. For example, in the words hawlahu and innahu, all three options are allowed. And the third case is when the letter before ha al-dhamir carries an original sukoon, such as in these examples, minhu and falyasumhu. We can opt to stop on these words either with Rawm, Ishmaam, or with a complete sukoon. So in all these three states, stopping with Rawm, Ishmaam, and complete sukoon is allowed depending on the vowel of ha al-dhamir. By keeping all these exceptions in our mind, we can say if the last letter has a fatha, the only option to stop on a word is with a complete sukoon. If the last letter has a kasra, the option to stop on the word is with Rawm or a complete sukoon. And if the last letter carries a dhamma, then we can stop on the word either with a complete sukoon, Rawm, or Ishmaam. I hope this topic is clear to you. Insha'Allah, in our next class, we will discuss another topic called ikhtilas, which is often compared with Rawm due to some similarities. And insha'Allah, we will discuss the common points and differences of Rawm and ikhtilas. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.